Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the New School Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, alongside my co-host, and I guess I should say guest today. We'll do, I'm sure, also throughout the next few years or however long this show continues to go. Obviously, you want to plan for it to go forever and ever and ever and ever. We'll probably do plenty of shows just like this, right? Where it's Boon and I catching up, touching base, talking about progress. What inspires me to be here with this show is the mission, the vision, and ultimately, building something that one day my own children can leverage. And you know what? You always want to kind of give them a choice too, right? So even if my kids don't leverage this one day, at least it can be helping other ones around the world. With all that being said, our founder of CuriosityLab.AI, Boon Choew, like I said, he's back here with us. So Boon, how are you today? How has your week been? What'd you do this week?
Been really good. I just got back from California. I went out there to meet with some investors and founders. I had some really good meetings. Every person I got to meet, Curiosity Lab is always something that I can talk about because this thing is so, it's wide ranging. Anything that I do can tie back to education. So it's a very meaningful thing.
For a lot of people who have kids, we're all kind of in this gang of parenthood together. But yeah, even like you said, even beyond that, I know a few people I know who do not have kids who would always be down to kind of share their insight, their knowledge, and how they got to where they're at. It's very much what I view CuriosityLab.ai to be, is a fast track to whatever direction you want to go with your professional career. So on that note, you recently did an event called Kidpreneur on behalf of CuriosityLab.ai, and I believe there's another one coming up too. So kind of tell us about the inception of Kidpreneur, how the first one went, and what's in store.
Yeah. So when I came up with the idea was like, hey, what do we want to, because there's a lot of summer camps going on right now with, the schools being off. And obviously as parents, we're looking at, hey, what camp should we send our kids to? So not send my son to. I looked at all the camps that are out there. There's a lot of camps for activities and stuff like that, but it's not really one that is really long lasting. Like there's one that has like a long lasting impact. So and I thought about it and I said, why don't we start doing something that teaches kids how to build their own businesses, right? Because building businesses is one thing that requires so many different skills. I remember back in the day when I was doing game programming, that one discipline itself was, required so many different, so many different areas like physics, math, gameplay, user experience, all that stuff combined to make one product for the user, which is game, right? Immersive experience. So with business, for me, it's just almost the same thing. Like you want to run a business, you really want to understand how the world works, financial literacy, branding, marketing, sales, so many different areas just for that one thing. So I thought about it and I say, hey, I'm going to just launch a Kidpreneur thing. I went online, research and see if there's something like this out there. There's no one is offering this, at least not in Manhattan.
Probably one of the first places it should be offered.
Yeah. I don't think it's anywhere else. There might be one or two out there, but it's not very common. So right away, I, fired up my, thing and then just crafted the entire offering, what the value proposition of what Kidpreneur should be, and started printing out flyers, went out to schools. That was maybe a week before the school, public schools stops. And then we just went out and started handing out flyers and just to start that. And that's how it began.
I love it. I remember when you were kind of in that phase of developing the branding, the flyers and all that, you kind of bounced some ideas off me too. And it was cool to see that go from that phase to then actually happening. You sent over some pictures and that type of stuff as well. So let's talk about when it all went down. And I say that with a question mark because there is more coming this summer, right? It wasn't just the one time, to your point. So how was take number one?
Yeah. So take number one, basically because we did it literally a few days before the school stopped, right? And so it wasn't well timed, obviously. But in my head, the class that we do at Curiosity Lab, I never have to wait for a better time on anything. I just do it whenever we think it's the right time to do it. We have 2 kids join the program, which to me is great because I can start small and see how it went. One is 6, one is 7. And at first I thought, because initially we were thinking about doing 7 to 16, but I said, I'm going to give it a try just to see if the 6-year-old can understand, what we're going to be dealing with. But to my surprise, the 6-year-old was killing it. He was just great at it, right? And first day when we did the class, we went around the neighborhood in Tribeca. I just have them collect all the business names, all the businesses, right? The names of them on a sheet of paper. So they're just both competing, just jotting down names, company names, and then the nature of the business. They have to tell me what they do. And then there's one restaurant.
When you had them running around checking out the businesses, there was a chaperone there, right?
Yeah. exactly.
A moderator.
So they were collecting, and then there was one place, there's a restaurant. There's a Michelin thing on the door, right? And the kids were like, "Hey, we're asking, what's this Michelin thing? Like the sign there on the restaurant." They said that's the tire maker. I was actually surprised that they knew that Michelin makes, they makes tires. So I said, "What does the tire maker, have to do with restaurant? Why is it on there?" So they don't know why. I started asking them a question. I said, well, this is actually a Michelin rating, right? Like they rate restaurants. So then I asked them, why is the tire maker rate restaurant? How did it become a, sort of a rating that restaurants all like die for? So we started going into that, and I started realizing actually a lot of adults don't even know how that came about. Like why Michelin ended up, being like such a big thing for restaurant rating. Do you know why?
I know you got my attention too. I'm ready for Kidpreneur.
So I don't know exactly the year. So I think it's around 1920 or so. Michelin's sale was actually going down pretty bad. And so they tried to find a way out of that. So one of the things they thought about doing was to print like a booklet of some sort, like a travel guide, right? With lists of restaurants you can go to. The idea with that is that if I can get more people to travel and go to restaurants at different places, more people buy tires from them. So they want to up the sales of the tire. And by doing this, I told a kid about that. And then I looked up some things on YouTube to show them the history of Michelin rating, and they could appreciate that. It was like, wow, that was a really cool idea of how they went into something completely different, but that has tie-in that can actually push their tire sales. So over time, obviously, initially they were just rating restaurants by giving them just one Michelin star, but over time it developed into 1, 2, 3 different stars. And obviously that has huge implication on the restaurant sales, right? Like if you have a star or 2 stars, it brings you a different amount of traffic to your restaurants, huge amount of traffic. And so they learned that, which is great. And so they learn about branding as we walking around in the neighborhood. They learn about branding. They learn about franchise. I told them what a franchise is with McDonald's. And so, yeah, just in that one quest, one day, like the 6-year-old and 7-year-old learn a ton about all sort of how business they actually work, how they actually function. And we saw in a poster, right? It's an alcohol poster. Obviously, I told him, I said, no alcohol, don't touch it. And so we use our phone to take a picture of that, and I start using AI to start analyzing what's on the poster and see why they are there. And they learn a ton from that too. Because the poster had like, hey, it was actually a small print, but it's like, if you do this and this and this, you win a free trip to somewhere. So we start analyzing what's on the poster and why is it there? How did they come up with the copy and all that stuff? So even with that, just the analysis of the poster with the help of AI and us discussing, they were learning a ton about it as well.
What stood out to you as some of the moments that the kids truly got sucked in from a point of having fun? Because with any program or anything that exists, there's always certain points where it's really engaging. There's points where it can get less engaging, boring, whatever you want to call it. What did you notice were like moments where they really got into it?
It's actually really surprising to me because the whole thing is very interactive. The kids all end up like at the end of the session, they were like, hey, this is the best camp I've ever had, right? They all said that. So because I have a small group, it's not like a huge level, and I'm not dealing with 10, 20 kids, I give them a lot of personalized attention. So there's never really a time when they get bored with something, because if they were sort of like, if we sense that there's something like the energy is going in the wrong direction, we would sort of like tweak things right away. So there's really not really a dull moment per se, other than, for example, when they're researching the company names and all that, I started noticing that, the energy is coming down now they're getting a little tired, then we switch to a new activity. So it's not that so much that the activity itself is boring, it's more that, hey, there's a point where they start getting tired of doing that same thing, then we switch to something different. We were standing outside of a dental, as like a veterinary, but they only do with dental and oral health of an animal, right? And they didn't know that. They thought it was a dental office. They were standing outside. The doctor came out, greeted them, gave them a piece of some kind of a bone or something for dogs to like clean their teeth. They gave it to us, to the kids to bring home. And so then they learn about it. I said, oh, this is a sample. They give it to us so we can tell the people about the place. So it's just fun, like to have that sort of interaction with the kids, at a different type of businesses that in the neighborhood.
Now that you pointed out earlier too, this is not that common, and so being in the position of the businesses that get to interact with the kids, I'm sure it had to be fun for them too. I think back to even when I managed stores for Sherwin-Williams for a while, and I can imagine if a group of kids came in to learn about how to paint sales work, even as a person working there, and I don't know, maybe some people don't like kids, but I think that'd be awesome, right?
100%. Yeah.
Did you make any new connections as well with like the businesses and the groups that you guys interacted with?
Yeah, I mean, we ended up getting more kids wanting to sign up later because that was just one session. The next day we did a lemonade stand. The reason why this was so worthwhile is I realized how little sort of knowledge I have to download to the kids. I mean, I just guide them, right? And for me, kids are naturally entrepreneurial because, I mean, if you think about it, being an entrepreneur, you have to take risk. Kids, they don't mind. I mean, if you're talking about really young kids, they're falling down every day. I mean, as they're crawling, they're learning how to walk. They don't associate bad things about falling down or making mistakes. They just have fun with it. Every time you see them interact with something, they just test things out in 10,000 different ways, right? If you give them a simple doorknob, they can play within it. By nature, they're entrepreneurial because they like to explore things and see how the only problem is that they don't know a lot of things backfire because they don't know the implication of, messing around with the wrong thing. But they are, I mean, by nature, entrepreneurs. And I see that with those kids. When we talk about doing the lemonade thing, we went to the supermarket, researching, different products, figuring out what to sell. And I taught them about product SKUs so they know what a SKU is. SKU, them can spell it. And then when we did the sign, I didn't even tell them what to write. And the kids would write the world's best lemonade and like big blocky letters and then, coloring it in, looking really good. And the kids are they came up with 3-tier pricing, which is surprising to me. It's not even like $2 per cup. It's like $1 for a small cup, $2 for a medium cup, $4 for a family cup, which is like, wow. You already they probably don't know the implication of 3-tier pricing, but they just kind of went with it. They probably might have seen it somewhere else, right? And then as we're serving lemonade on the street, they have to figure out which location to pick because location matters. And they get to see that, if we do it 2 different locations, they're going to see the sale, the traffic is going to be different. So they learn about all of this organically by just doing it. And it was great. They learned so much. They made quite a bit of money actually in probably a 2-hour period. They made over $100 just from selling lemonade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, kids. You got to open a lemonade stand in Tribeca. That's a good start.
Yeah.
Location perspective. That's so cool. So, and I'm not sure when this interview will go out or when it goes live, but if anyone tuned in right now does want updates on the next session to sign up for, when is it? What's the best way to go about doing that?
Yeah. So we're doing another session last week of July 29th. But even if people miss, because I know people's schedule is very different in the summer, we do intend to continue to launch a Kidpreneur in the fall, probably in a cadence of once a week, depending on the reception. But to really teach them, this is a long-term thing. You grow, right? You start a business. I want to get them to not just do a lemonade, but launch their own business. And as they grow in their journey, launch more and more businesses of different nature. That's the goal, right? That would be a great portfolio for them. Before they go into college, they would have started a few different businesses, startups, and learn, things from just running different, business of different nature.
One thing that I remember you mentioned to me, and I don't know if it was offline in our first episode, but even, encouraging and teaching kids how to write, author, and publish books. There's no reason that you have to be 18 in order to figure out how to do that, right? And so I find stuff like that to be inspiring and exciting, similar to what you're talking about. And then also, even as we grow out the media branch of CuriosityLab.AI, it'd be cool to see some kids start their own podcast along the way too, right? And you've got to volunteer already.
100%. I mean, I was talking right before this call, I was talking to a founder. He's a physical therapist, and I was asking her, can I launch a class teaching kids how to, about physical therapy? Because if you know a kid, if they learn about all the things that go into physical therapy, they learn how to sit proper, walk properly and all of that stuff to enhance their own athletic abilities and all, to prevent injury and things like that. So it's a lot of adult stuff that we can actually bring them down to the kids level and have them learn and be aware from early on. And not only are they learning about the profession, they're learning about key knowledge that actually help them maintain their well-being. So it's a great thing.
There's an interview I saw recently, and I can't remember the speaker, but he has one of the most viewed TED Talks. I think it's 40 million or more. And it's something along the lines of how to learn anything in 20 hours. One key takeaway that he mentioned from that presentation is every complex system that you can think of began as something simple. If I'm going to learn something, it's going to start in this simple phase. It's such a powerful reminder, and I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, I grew up having a lot of different interests, and what I realized over time is that whether you're learning martial arts or art or music or something that may seem like it's of different nature, underlying is pretty much the same thing. It's not kind of made of atoms, but somehow if you organize it in a different way, now you become a living living being. The same thing here when you're learning different things is you're learning the fundamentals of building blocks. And now the next thing is once you learn the building blocks is how do you rearrange them in ways that it's, that makes sense, it's pleasing. It's about really getting good at rearranging the building blocks. And so every single thing that you learn, whether it be, is really learning what the fundamentals are and then really learning how to reorganize those fundamentals in a way that, interesting patterns or interesting behavior can come out of it. That's what the kids are actually learning throughout their whole life. It's just learning different medium, different ways of organizing the fundamentals.
We might have some viewers and listeners tuned in right now, July 2024. You could be listening July 2025. But I do want to kind of just set some goals here and rehash them with you as well. Where do you see not only Kidpreneur, but kind of like the vision for CuriosityLab.ai over the next 6 to 12 months?
So we want to keep innovating, keep on coming up with a new quest with the kids. And I want to do it worldwide. And we give them the tools, the systems, the things that we learn, and we increase that feedback loop of us learning from each other, right? So now you can see Limited Stand being, started in Paris and not just in New York. All of that, the learning, the kids can learn from each other, and the kids can be exposed to multiple cultural and multiple sort of like foreign languages at the same time. And so the way I see it right now in the next really 6 to 9 months is more experiments, more innovations, and more locations, and more ways for kids to learn from each other. Now we finally have a tool that is freeing us up from that sort of rote memorization, but more on perfecting our sort of behavioral side of things, our psychological side of things. Now we have more time to spend on improving our mental toughness, our psychological, mental, and emotional well-being. That's what we need to focus on now because we can afford to. We don't have to spend as much time memorizing things anymore, but we can spend more time asking questions, be curious about things.
When it comes to AI, man, I'm going to agree with you on that. I want to say almost even selfishly now too, as I think about how this is going to grow. But I've just, to your point, I've saved so much time just in the past 3 months with what I've learned from AI and ChatGPT. And I don't know if you've played around with Claude yet, kind of like the newer one, the Target to the Walmart. If ChatGPT is that says what it is.
Yeah.
I got to say, so far, I've been very impressed with Claude. I actually don't even really use ChatGPT anymore. So if that helps anyone out there, I know this is an industry just like the internet and tech and all these things. It's just moving so fast. So who knows? Claude could be outdated as soon as I say this.
Yeah.
But I just got to throw that out there. My biggest takeaway from what you said is obviously time saving, speed of execution is great with AI. But then the next thing to really move the needle forward for CuriosityLab.ai is just more action, more involvement. Location is really big. So whether you're tuned in Europe, Asia, South America, anywhere all over North America, wherever, the time to take action is now. What's the best way for anyone listening right now who does want to get involved, whether from an educational perspective or with their kids? Like, what's the best way for them to take action now, regardless of where they're at?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing is to research, obviously, spend time daily researching the impact of AI and how it changes the nature of things. It's going to change a lot of things, even including the nature of education, including other things as well. Start a conversation with friends, with me, reach out to me, Boon at CuriosityLab.ai, or even text me at 917-724-4968. That's the best way, right? Like reach out to people who are maybe a step or two ahead of you and kind of have a meaningful discussion. Don't make up your mind too soon and start discovering things and see what you learn from it before you make up your mind. This thing is coming whether you like it or not. If you push it away, you lose that chance of really discovering what could be there. For me, I think right now, kids really need to spend more time learning about AI tools and really learning how to use it responsibly, but also creatively in a way that expands their range, because it is removing a lot of skill barriers. What that means is that they're able to now explore more things more deeply at an earlier age. And that's what we're trying to show here through Curiosity Lab. I think people should get off the seat. Don't repeat that same thing that you're doing the day before. Try something new. Reach out to people like us, explore, innovate, and you're going to learn a ton. And you're going to start looking at things in a different way. Well
said. You guys heard it there. If you rewind the episode 2 minutes, you'll get Boon's contact information, and you can always reach us through CuriosityLab.ai. It's been another awesome episode. I'm looking forward to the next one. This is the New School podcast, where we live by one motto: out with the old, in with the new. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, alongside our co-host and founder of CuriosityLab.ai, Boon Choew. Boon, thank you again for investing your most valuable resource with us here today, your time.
Thank you, Adam.
And same to you listening right now. Thank you as well for investing. We'll catch you in the next episode. And guys, remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.